chiefly as a cinematographer, you are responsible for the visual side of the film. That is the sort of nuts and bolts. That would be the shortest explanation. You are responsible for the visual side. There are directors that are very specific. They have a vision. They might come to you with references, and most of them do. They say, listen, I like this style, I would like to go this way, I would like to be, and they might say, I want to shoot the entire film handheld for a reason, or we might be going black and white, or he'll say, I really love this particular movie, this style. With the good directors, they will say these are references, but we have to develop our own style, because you don't want to be just copying somebody else's style. That's not really creating something. You're just going, oh, well, we're going to make it look like Saving Private Ryan, or I don't know. So usually the work involves a lot of discussions, gathering reference materials, photos, paintings. With some people it's music. People will give you a music and they say, this particular scene here has this sort of emotion, and they will play the music. And then they have directors that are chiefly only interested in the written word and the actors, and they will leave majority of the visual side to you. You'll have a lot of discussions. You might have storyboard some difficult scenes. You might storyboard the entire movie. I've done that before as well, because the director, and also depends really much on your budget. Yeah, if your budget says that you have to shoot 5 pages every day, then you know that you have to be fast, efficient, so you can't be lighting and having crane shots and doing this and that. So it's, for me, my chief responsibility is to convert the written page into a visual piece of film or video, whatever you want to call it now. And the challenge is to usually make it as exciting or amazing under the circumstances, time, money. It's those are the limits basically. And the more you do it, the more you learn how to be fast, efficient, and then you can start playing. Then you can be inventive. Then you can go, well, okay, I could shoot it simply like this, but hey, I want to be doing it from a slightly different angle. I want to be, maybe I'll move the camera, or maybe I'll do it from a completely different angle. But it's most of the time it's about what are you trying to say with that particular shot. Is it necessary? Is it moving the story? Are we doing it for the audiences? So it's very much, for me, it's the camera it carries the emotion. It gives the audience the emotional element of the story. Of course, you've got the actors, you've got the performances and everything else, but you could be so clever with how you use the camera to navigate the audience through movement, through shifting focus, through lighting. You can create mood just simply by lighting.
And when you shooting, do you really look at the frame from the side of the potential viewer who is gonna be in the cinema and watch the movie, or it's like you are here?
I'm sitting in a cinema. I'm the first person to see the movie, and that is amazing. When you're creating, or when you're covering a scene, you come up with normally the way it works is that after the location's been scouted and decided upon, you'd come there with a director and the actors, and they would perform the scene. And they might rehearse in the space. And when the director is happy with the performance, we might decide how we're going to cover the scene. And it could be a one shot, a camera move that's got to start wide and come close, or the other way around. It can start on a tight shot of something and then you pull back. Or we'll decide that we're going to cover it in 3 shots, or 5 shots, or maybe, you need, and it's an action scene, and you have 5 cameras and they're going to shoot, everything over and over. So for me, it's deciding with the director how to shoot that particular scene, so the meaning of the script, of the scene, the emotional charge that is in that particular scene gets hand it over to the audience in the best possible way.
And do you see it like a little bit like a stagnation, or it's otherwise it will help, and let's say in 5-10 years it will pump and we'll have a lot of good experts in the industry?
In my opinion, it's really leveling the playing field. You know, when I was starting, if you didn't have a film camera, at least 16 millimeter, you couldn't compete. To buy a 16 millimeter camera was just insanely expensive, and 35 millimeter cameras were like unachievable. That's why you have rental houses. And I remember I bought my first 16 millimeter camera, and that basically helped me because people would hire me because I had the equipment. So I said, okay, you don't have to pay me, but you have to pay for the camera. And they go, okay, because normally they would have to get the camera out of a rental shop. I made sure I was a little bit cheaper than the rental shop, and and had some more bits and pieces. And that way I managed to get myself onto a lot of, you know, music videos and short films and documentaries because I had my own camera. The limit or the limitation for the new generation is like the ideas. Do you have a good idea? If you get an idea, you can just go buy this for a fraction of the cost and go out and shoot the film. And now you can go away, have a laptop with you, and you can shoot the thing. You can edit the same day. You can do your post. You can do your grade with the DaVinci, and you can output your film the same day if you're fast enough.
There are right now so much terms. Someone is like video maker, content creator, filmmaker, cinematographer. Can we like separate it a little bit? So the filmmaking is a huge industry, and the cinematographer is just a person, but sometimes he's doing the job of the DOP. Is it correct?
Oh, it's just a different terminology. DOP in America they say DP. Mm-hmm. In England they say the lighting cameraman. Europe mostly, and Australia say DOP. Sometimes it's cinematographer. It's really, for me, cinematographer has got a certain sound. I really like that sort of title, but because DOP, it says director of photography, and I think there's only one director on the set, yeah? So it's sort of kind of, it means that you are in charge of the visual side. And I think it's, both of them are very correct in describing what you do, but I like the sound of cinematographer. It's just, it's got a bit of a, you know, old school sound to it, and the cinematographer as such it's an amazing position because you in control, and you have to have two set of skills. You have to have a technical skill, and you have to have the artistic vision as well.
So maybe even right now it's a good point where you can define the term cinematographer. You told that you really like the drama projects, and so does it mean that each cinematographer has to be a little bit like emotional, have some feelings, because it's exactly the part which you have to be? When
you look at most films, that when you look at them and you research who was the cinematographer, you'd be hard to find out anyone that's going to be like below 30, maybe even below 40. Yeah. You might go to school and study cinematography, and you come out and you know, obviously to get into a film school to study cinematography, you have to be talented. But there's also this other element to it. If you haven't experienced life, if you haven't been through, how are you going to connect on an emotional level? Yes, I can frame this and I can make a dolly shot, I can light it beautifully, and I can choose the right lens and the right filter. But if you have no empathy for the lines and the actors and what they're presenting, it's like, how would you know how that person feels and what it means? Or how would you portray that emotion? How are you going to portray that emotion if you don't know, oh, you got to make it like this? Fine. But maybe this shot's got to be much more appropriate. Cinematographer, as such, is the person that translates the vision from here onto the screen through, he's the filter, he's the medium, but it's obviously in discussion with the director.
In your opinion, we don't take the others, cinematographers, but in your opinion, the best cinematographer has to experience the life, has to shoot feature films.
Why do you get into a film industry? Why you want to be a cinematographer? Most people that I speak with, and if you ask them, why did you get into the film industry? Is I wanted to tell stories, or I wanted to shoot films. The byproduct of your skill is that people go, oh, would you shoot a commercial for us? Or would you shoot a music video? You say, well, I have nothing else to do because the next feature film is 2 years from now. So I'll go and shoot your commercial or your music video. But what happens is that suddenly people go, oh, that was fun, and I got really nicely paid. Maybe I should spruce up my show reel and go and I shoot more commercials. On one hand, it's great because it keeps you up to date with equipment, technology. You get to travel, you get to pay it, and so you don't have to be the struggling artist. But I ask people, it's like, why did you get into the film industry? Well, you didn't get into the film industry so you could shoot commercials, yeah? You don't have to be when you read a book, you can imagine, you're projecting what you read into your head. You see the people, the characters, the locations, and, if it's a sci-fi on another planet, you don't have to experience that. I'm not saying it's completely necessary for you to have lived life and experience different things, but I guess coming out of film school and you are 25-year-old and you have very small life experience, go and travel, go and spend a year in India or South America and just see different life. For people that just come out of film school, and yes, you've got a diploma and you're talented and you know how to operate a camera and you know how to pick the lenses and you can light it beautifully, but sometimes you end up with a very sterile imagery. But the difference between a good and a bad cinematography is just in the eye of the viewer. 95% of the audience could not tell whether it's good or bad because they just see some images. So
yeah, like if you are not in the industry, you don't really understand why you're doing this, like why the camera is moving. Yeah. So you technically, even when you shoot, when you prepare to your work, or even when you look to other films, you just always ask yourself, why is it like this? What? So you a little bit like decomposing the project, right?
If I really like a certain film, I'll have to watch it at least twice, because the first time I'm watching the movie, I'm going, okay, well, how is he moving the camera? Oh, that's a dolly. No, it couldn't be the dolly down because it's gone too high. It's a crane, oh no, it's gone even higher, so it must be a drone. And then there's I watched show. So I think it's the second time, and when I go, okay, I just got to watch it and just relax. But there's some films where within the first maybe minute, 2 minutes, I really love what the DOP is doing. And I just completely forget. I'm just like, and that was the film that I watched last night. That was just amazing, and it was fantastic. And immediately after I finished watching the movie, I just opened IMDb and I was just basically looking up everything I could about the film, which is.
It's really interesting because nowadays I met more and more people. Maybe it's because everyone can buy a camera, but they don't have any schools or anything, and they just learn from the YouTube videos and all this stuff. How do you feel about it? Is it like necessary to have a school nowadays?
Well, a film school is it's interesting because when you look at it back historically, there was no film school until after World War II. Yeah, most of them actually started much later, maybe in the 60s. All those filmmakers that came prior to that they learned on the job. Usually, they started from some lower positions, anywhere on the job, and came up through the system, and you learned by observing, by being part of the film crew. It was much harder, of course, when it was shot on celluloid. When film was actually going through the camera, it was extremely expensive. The cameras were giant, especially when they went from silent movies into talkies. The cameras were put into blimps, and if you've seen any of the old photos, these were just giant things. You could hardly move them, and the film stocks were so slow in terms of the sensitivity that you had to light with these giant, arc lights. So it's getting easier and easier in terms of being able to grab one of these cameras and go and shoot. Film school will give you the building blocks or of how to build a film in terms of it will give you the basics, the rules. You can break them, of course, but if you don't know the rules, then you might be doing very basic mistakes. But cinema is filmmaking is actually quite simple to learn, because you can just take all the great movies, put them on a screen, and you watch them, and you can analyze them, you can stop them and go, okay, so why is this working? And nowadays there's hundreds of web pages dedicated to dissecting movies, and will tell you how many shots in a movie was, and what is the average length of the shot, and how many cuts, and he shot it with one camera only, and you can really go and by numbers dissect the movie. But the other thing is also the film. It's about how the film, how it feels for you. So yes, film schools are good in a sense, but there's so many filmmakers out there that just basically went out. They don't have film school, and it's more about storytelling.
And do you think, is it like somewhere a starting point in a life that you just start see something, or is you just born like this? You always was dreamer?
Oh, look, I mean, I loved in my personally, I always, I read a lot when I was a kid, and of course we had an advantage. I would say an advantage, because there was nothing on TV. We didn't have, internet. The cinema was on once a week. I was always there. So I read a lot, and it started my imagination. I would be drawing. And I wanted to actually become a painter. I wanted to go to art school and be a painter. But my political background wasn't aligned with the communist government that was in charge here at the time. So I couldn't go and study arts. And I would be basically, every time the cinema would have something on, which was like Saturday, Sunday, I would go there and watch all the movies. I loved walking into a movie house, lights going out, and just watching whatever. After graduating from the Navy school, I ended up on a ocean-going cargo ship, and the only form of entertainment on the ship was the local cinema, which had a 16mm projector, or 35, I can't recall. I think after about 3 months, he was going to leave the ship and go home, and he said, "Mark, you sit here every single day. I'll teach you how to be a projectionist." I said, yeah, that's fantastic, thank you. So he gave me a crash course in, how to splice the film and how to put the film through the sprockets, and, keeping it all nice and neat. And so I became, apart from all my other duties on the ship, now I can jokingly always claim it's my first film school, because I would sit in the cabin and I would see every film 15, maybe 20 times, maybe even more.
What's your fuel today? Like, you charge in some energy from the childhood, so because you watched a lot, you read a lot, or it's somehow mixed? What's the...
I think my main sort of driving force is that I really love cinema. I really love creating visuals, and that is just it's like passion and obsession. It's also a bit of a curse, because you walk down the street and the sun might be coming from a strange angle, and you see an image and you go, "Oh, I need a camera here, I want to shoot this." And if I had 2 people walking down here on a long lens, and it would be the whole cinema would be crying. And unfortunately, you see this on a daily basis, because you're a visual person. You kind of, it's a bit of a curse, because you see bits and pieces of film everywhere you go.
And do you think that anyone, or maybe do you think the young generation can make it as a practice, just to try to see everywhere the frame?
If you had a 35mm stills camera, and you bought a roll of film, there was 36 frames or 24 frames, depending on how big. So you would really think twice before pressing the shutter. You'd look through the camera, you'd find the composition, maybe you were too far, you'd come a little closer, maybe the sun was going from a wrong angle. So you would not just click away. Because you do it with the first film, and then you'd get it back from the lab, and you look at it and goes, "Oh, my photos are just horrible," and it's like, "Oh, what did I do?" And it's out of focus, and it's overexposed or underexposed, or there's a car in the background, or I've got my fingers in front of the lens. Nowadays, it costs nothing. You just keep pressing the button. So people will take 15, 20 shots of the same thing, and they go, "We'll fix it in post," kind of thing. We'll run it through some filters, and we'll crop it, and we'll make it the right sort of composition. So on one hand, the technology is kind of helping us to be out there and use it and film it and make projects that 10 years you couldn't do. But also there's no discipline in terms of let's shoot this, and then you end up with so much data. Mm-hmm. It's so easy now to create imagery, but there's like with the information that we now have, the quantities are massive, and there's very very little in that sort of looks kind of amazing or different. Or
I really like your thought about the quantity, because maybe even 5 years ago I always make a lot of shots, a lot of photos, and just spend hours on a post-production. But only because I tried to think, how can I make it a little bit better and just don't have so much material so I can go faster to the next project, because I want to do the next project. I start thinking and analyzing, how can I do this? And I understood the one thing that I probably don't see it properly. So that's why I'm looking and clicking it so much. And I start looking for different books and trying to combine the different fields and industries. And right now I have, I read this book. It's really nice.
That is the best.
But mine one is like a little bit more smaller. It's really interesting.
I've got 2 books by him, and I think, okay, it's heavy and very intellectual, but this is probably the best book on filmmaking.
Yeah, because it's like a science.
Yes.
Because he's like trying to explain how you can. It's great. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So back to my thought. I start to experiment. Like every time when I go to museum, first of all, maybe my next question will be how you get in the inspiration, because I don't watch a lot of films, to say the truth, and I try to go to the different museums, to the installation, to listen to the music, to see the architecture. And I personally feel that it's somehow combining inside me, and it gives me this view.
Absolutely. I think that if you strictly only watched movie for inspiration, that would be like I get a lot of inspiration in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Just like,
what is the most unusual way how you can get this? Because for me, for example, I go to the museum and bought the book about the circles. There is 100 page about the circles, like the planet, the picture, the clock, all the circle objects. And when I just go really fast through it, all the time when I'm on the set and trying to do the match cut, as you said, with the wheel, I have such a huge database of the circle objects that I can find them immediately. Like, how can I do this? So what's the most unusual way, or maybe non-standard, how you find your inspiration and you feel this experience inside you?
As you said, for me, it's also a combination of all these elements. Music, for me, is a hugely inspirational music, because music is probably the oldest way of creating emotions in us, That's been with us for hundreds and hundreds of years. For me, I love everything you mentioned. Paintings, music. For me, also nature is a huge inspiration. My inspiration for lighting, it comes from this. It's from the written word, and obviously it's then you go to a location or studio, and then you go, okay, it clearly says it's going to be night or day, or it's afternoon, or it's before dawn, and something's happening. So lighting is a tricky one, because you have to, and that's where the experience come in as well.
At the moment when you have right now so much projects and it's changing all the time, how you stay like really motivated? How do you keep your hunger?
Well, because I think that I still haven't done my best work. I think that people go, "Oh, what's the best job?" I go, "The next one." Yeah, because it is exciting to be on the set, with crew and people and actors, and you have this, and you got to create the visual side. But also, I think what's really motivating for me is not that it is on paper, and I'm the one that is making it into a visual side. I'm the first person to see the movie. I'm the one that can, create the visuals, create the emotions, and that for me, it's like it's so exciting.
There is a great thought that you always learn not from your success, but from your fail.
Absolutely, yes.
I have one already.
Yeah.
I don't want the next one. I still experience the results of this fail, but I want to ask you maybe, what's the biggest fail and what's the lesson was from it?
Well, I think I had a real cock up. I still might have been in film school, and we were shooting on film, and I was the clapper loader that loads the film into the camera, and the full and empty side was reversed on this particular camera, and I opened the magazine when the film was loaded in it. The rule on film set is that if you make a mistake of any kind, you immediately go and tell your superior. With this rule in my head, I kind of closed it, and I just went, okay. So I went to see the DOP, and I said, listen, I really, really fucked up. I opened the magazine, and there was film in it. And he goes, okay, show me where it was. So I took him into a room, and it was a really dark room. There was no windows, there was no light. And he pulled out his light meter. He measured the light, and he says, okay, so now tell me, truthfully, how long was the magazine open? I said, it was like this. He goes, okay, we'll use the film. And so we shot on that roll of film, and my butt cheeks were firmly tightened for 2 days. And it came back from the lab, and there was a little bit of fogging on the film, but it didn't get into the picture area. So where you have the sprockets, so there was some light leak, a little bit of fogging, but the image was perfect. So the lesson was that I have never ever since opened a magazine the wrong way, and I've never done that again ever.
To say the truth, I expect that you will tell something like, oh, Nick, we lost the budget or a few millions. So does it mean that if you don't have such a big mistakes, is it because of the pre-production, how you prepare to the projects?
I think you can minimize the amount of mistakes by also selecting the people that you work with, yeah? Over time, you will collect people that you want to work with because of, hey, they are professional, they know what they're doing, they're fun to be with, they're quick, they don't complain. So they're reliable. You can rely on them in terms of everything. I don't think we've blown a budget ever. I mean, yeah, there's been budgets, overheads, but the preparation is a key. And also, things will go wrong on a film set, but also knowledge how to go around it, yeah?
So the filmmaking is more about this, how you're going to solve the problem.
Absolutely. For me, it's great pleasure as well, because then you can also save a lot of money, and you can make, okay, then you go, I don't have this piece of equipment, we'll have to shoot it like this. We did a shot in a boardroom. There was an extremely long table, and the chairman was sitting at the head, and we had all these people on the sides, and the director said, listen, I want a shot where we start on the CEO, and then we just pull back, and we just reveal all the other people, and until we see the entire room with all the CEO sitting, all the board members sitting there. How are we going to do it? I said, okay, well, there's 3 ways. It's a techno crane. And he goes, how are we going to, and it was like a 35th floor of a skyscraper. He said, we're not going to get a techno crane. I said, okay. The second way of doing it is putting laying a dolly track on the side of the table, a dolly and an underslung camera, and we'll just slide it like this. And I said, and the third way is that I'm going to fold a piece of blanket, put the camera on it, and I will drag it on the table. And I said, show me. And we walked away. Half an hour later, the shot was in the can. He was just laughing. He says, no one's going to believe how we shot this shot. You would not know.
For me, it's always when I'm looking for the people who are problem solvers. The one thing which I recognized, all of them, when they was a kid, they played in the forest, in the summer houses, they built something from the wood, Have you ever try this? Like, what was your...
It's funny because I shot quite a lot in the US as well, and you can tell that they have never encountered any problems in their life, because if there's a problem, they go, "Oh, we're going to need to call an expert." Yeah. In Australia, it's completely different.
You have experts.
They have experienced that, and you see people are extremely inventive. And I love film people, because with a bit of gaffer tape and some tin foil, you can make anything. And we've managed to, because as long as it looks good on camera and it works on camera, it's fantastic. And we've done it so many times. And I love people, props people and all, set builders, because they can do amazing things.
Only because today I want to study the field of the cinematography with you in this space. I want to ask you, do you see any similarity or something similar between all the cinematographers? Like, what... I understand that everyone is unique. Everyone has his own experience, life experience, and do different stuff in life. But do you see anything which is like each cinematographer more or less have the same?
It's funny, you can usually spot the cinematographer in a room. Very inventive, attention to detail. There's a common trait in cinematographers, because it's the one element of filmmaking where you're combining the artistic with the technical. You have to have both in equal shares to be a successful cinematographer, because if you're just technical guy, then you'll shoot a perfectly technically correct picture, but it's got to be...
But if you have a problem, you will spend a few hours on solving it.
And it might not have any emotion in it. So it's got to be perfectly lit with all the values and all the, latitudes got to be perfect, but it might be a very empty emotionally. I think that a lot of the cinematographers are, problem solvers, thinkers, and inventors as well. Mm-hmm. And they're very creative in terms of, just always trying to look at things from different perspectives. And a lot of them are like, they like to play really important things, that you never lose the sort of inner child. The playfulness in you is the thing that really allows you to see things from different perspectives and try new things.
Have you ever go through some kind of a crisis, like you said, I don't want to shoot it, or you think that because you told me that you love to shoot drama, but somehow you found it, maybe it was with you all your life, but was there any point where you just didn't know what to shoot, what to do, what you are in a creative way? Was it like a crisis, and how you go through it?
That particular crisis happens after every single shoot. No, it is a humor aside. It is as a creative person, you always have self-doubts. Yeah, you always you are your own worst critic, and I have many creative crises, where I was maybe out of school for some 6-8 years, when my son, who was, I think he was like 7 or maybe 8 years old at the time, he asked me a very interesting question. He said, "Oh, Daddy, are you a filmmaker?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "What are you proud of?" And I thought, that's a very serious question for a young boy like you. But it got me thinking, and suddenly I realized that in the last 8 years of working as a filmmaker, I had shot many things, music videos, short films. I don't know, at the time I have already shot a feature film, documentaries, commercials. I realized that there was nothing that I could really point at and say, I'm really proud of this particular project as a cameraman, as a filmmaker, as an artist, as a person, as a father, as a citizen. So I met with some friends, filmmaker friends, and over a beer, I asked them the same question. And we've been in the industry for about the same time, and we realized that there was nothing that we worked for other people. We shot for other people. We shot, all sorts of projects. And I said, well, we all got into the film industry to tell stories. And after this amount of time, we don't have anything that we could actually take and say,
this is mine.
This is mine. This is what I'm really proud of. I think the crisis that you talked about is your own expectations, what you'd like to achieve, because when you get into filmmaking, you don't go, well, I want to be just making commercials or music videos. Maybe that's some people do, but for me I would love to tell stories that would be influential. When people see them, it will stay with them and will make them think, or they will go out of the cinema and would think about themselves or their life or their relations with other people. I want to be part of cinema that sort of made some sort of a mark, because it's not that difficult to get work, as a filmmaker, because there's a lot of things that are being filmed. The question is, what is the footprint that you want to leave behind you? And I'm counting myself extremely lucky that I've shot 9 feature films, and one of them it has been sort of deemed good enough to be selected for Cannes. And for me, it's like I can die a happy man now. Not that I want to die, but I want to keep shooting. But it's the thing is, like, why are you doing it? Why did you get into filmmaking? Fame, money, girls, rock and roll, drugs, I don't know, travel, maybe. We all have different reasons why we want to be filmmakers. And because I think cinema is one of the most powerful tools ever, because you can make a film or project and it can be seen all around the world, and you can influence people by doing that. We're using film as entertainment, but it's extremely influential, and some movies done that. Some films have been seen by millions and millions of people and being watched 30, 40, 50 years after they've been made, because they become classics. It's a very small percentage of films, but that's...
So you're still a little bit looking for it?
Oh,
I think maybe it's a goal of the life.
There's a huge flame still burning.
But it's great. That's maybe why you keep shooting and keep looking for a next project.